right, I'm going to do 2 days of notes in one here, just because it kind of all goes together. So I'll kind of separate it so you can pause. This first part, I would open up in the Google Classroom, I would open up the explorations packet and go in the textbook, and I would do exploration 1 and exploration 2 because it's teaching you the equations you learned in algebra 1, and algebra 2, honestly. You did them in both classes. So in there, it starts by doing just annual interest, and this is the one you learned in algebra 1. So your balance is going to be equal to your principal 1 plus r to the t. This was the one you did in algebra 1. And then this one right here is compounded interest. So that's like if you're doing it minutely, hourly, secondly, that kind of stuff. And you did that in algebra 2. So those two things I would take a glance at before you watch these notes. Otherwise, you're going to be confused. You need to do the exploration that is in the textbook for activity 1 and work through it. And then I would listen to these notes. Okay, so on this first one, this is going to be kind of like your homework assignment. It says, consider a $1,200 investment. These are the notes that are also in the Google Classroom. I am not on the first page. We're on the second page. I didn't make a mistake. The order of these numbering is weird. Okay, so it says consider a $1,200 investment at an annual rate of 8.2 for 10 years. Find the balance. So if it is annual, then you literally are just going to do 1,200, 1 plus 0.082 to the 10. And I'm going to pick up my calculator and I'm going to type that in, 1,200 times 1 plus 0.82, and you can add that together. I really don't care at this point. And so my answer, and you're talking about money, so I'm going to round it 2 places to the 09. Okay, so now if I do quarterly, I'm going to save myself a little time here because I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it down here. Okay, if you do quarterly, it's the same stinking equation, but you're going to divide this by 4 and you're going to times this by 4. Because if you're doing it quarterly, you're not doing it 1 time a year, you're doing it 4 times a year, so you cut that percentage up. And if you do it 4 times in a year, you're going to end up doing it 40 times in 10 years. So you would end up, I'm typing that thing, I'm just picking up my calculator, I'm typing that in, plus 0.082 divided by 4 to the 40th, 4 times 10. And my answer was 2,702.10, so 10 cents. Okay, so now monthly, I'm going to just take that thing, and now instead of dividing by 4, I'm going to divide this thing. Yes, go there. I'm going to divide monthly would be divided by 12. So I'm going to just cut and paste and change my 4s to 12s. And I end up with 2,717.01. Okay. And then finally daily. So I'm taking this thing, I'm pasting it. And on daily, I would take and divide by 365. So this would become times by 365. And so I'll change those on my calculator because I don't have the answer still. Sorry. And my answer is 2724.35. Okay, and so you're doing these problems. You did this last year in Algebra 2, and you did the purple equation in Algebra 1. And so you've done these before. The other thing that's on your homework, if you look at example 2, now this would be like a word problem. Like, I made them in class, I made them come up with the words. Like, for example, this question would say, Joe brought $350 to the bank and at 6.3%, how long to make $500? Okay, so if you look at that problem, yes, you would take, and my variable is in my exponent, so I'm going to need logs. So the first thing I have to do is divide by 350. So I do 500 divided by 350, and I get 10 sevenths. Okay, and so then I would do the log base 1.063 of 10 sevenths equals x. So the log base 1.063 of 10 sevenths, and it gives me an answer of 5.84 years. Okay, I guess I don't even know if it's years. This is a story problem, but I just made up my own words, and so there you go. So you might have to use logs on this. Okay, on example 3, this example is to try to help you with the homework. This has just this information, and then it's doing the next 2 questions. So you're using it here, and you're using it here. So kids they struggle with this on this homework because you are actually using that same information more than once. Okay, so it says on the day you were born, someone deposited $1,500 in the bank at 3.7% compounded quarterly. How long till they make $25,000? So if you look at this, now my variable is up on the exponent. So the first thing I would do is divide by the 1,500, and I get 50/3. So I'd have 1 plus 0.037 over 4 to the 4t equals 50/3. Okay, and now if I look, this is my exponent. That's terrible on the orange. Sorry. This is my exponent right there. So I'm going to end up doing the log base. You can type this whole thing in your calculator, 1.037 over 4 of 50/3 equals 4t. So you're going to type that whole thing in. You're literally going to type in the log base 1 plus 0.037 divided by 4, and then 50/3, and that's what 4t equals. So you're going to divide that answer by 4 to find the time, and my time would be 76.4 years. Okay, oops, sorry. Now, on your homework, kids, don't read more into the problem than that's there. So it says if your account wanted to have $20,000 on your 18th birthday, what would the rate be? So now it's the same information, it's the same account, but now I want to get $20,000. So they put in 1,500, 1 plus r divided by 4, because they didn't change quarterly, to the 4 times 18. If you look, my variable is not in the exponent, so I do not need logs. So the first thing I'm going to do is divide by 5,000, or 1,500, and I get 40/3 equals 1 plus r over 4 to the 18 times 4 is 72. How do you get rid of taking something to the 72nd root? You take, or sorry, to the power of 70, you would take it to the 72nd root. I'm going to do it to the 1 over 72. Either one doesn't matter. So I got 1.03663, 1 plus r divided by 4. So I'm going to take that answer and I'm going to minus 1. And I get 0.0366 equals r over 4. And so I'm going to multiply by 4. And my answer is 14.65%. Now, when I did this one in class, kids started laughing because are you going to find an account that has 14.65%? Probably not. So what would the rate have to be? I believe on the test it even asks, is this feasible? No, it's not feasible. You should know that about accounts. So this is activity 1 in your textbook. So this is the first assignment. This is what we did on Wednesday, okay? And then today we talked about APY and APR. So if you want to work on activity 1, you can pause right now and work on activity 1. It's just been a really hectic week for me. And so I don't really have a ton of time to make a ton of videos, but this should get you going, okay? And so now this is activity 2. You may want to go back and look at activity 2 because we're going to talk on activity 2. You do this lab. You figure out what E is. But you may remember E from your last math class. Remember, E is continuous growth. So the bigger the number that you put in, it ends up being the same thing as E. Let me see if I can go into Desmos at least and just kind of show you what I mean. Okay, so like if I took, let's do the one we just did. If I did $1,500 at 0.037%, and I did it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I compounded it like that. And I did that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and so I hit return. That's what I would get in a year. So now it gets really, really kind of like not confusing, but that's like you have to count those numbers. We learned last year that you could just do 1,500 and then do, let me look for, I don't know where my E is. It's got to be in here. I'm probably missing it someplace. I wonder if I can just use the letter E. It has the LN. Let me try E. Yeah. E to the 0.037. I just have to type E. Okay, if you look at that, those are almost the same exact answer. Okay, and so what the E stands for is if you're compounding it a bunch of times, it's continuous growth. And this is what that lab is, and you may want to take a look at it, but we come up with the formula for continuous growth. So what I would like you to do right now is I would like you to pause, okay? And then I would like you to fill these in. I'm just going to fill them all in really quick while you're working. I probably could pause, but I do not have much time to make this. Okay, so you should have gotten these, and I would see if you can make it match. Annual was 1356. Quarterly was 1363.77. Monthly was 1365.64. Daily was 1366.56. And then continuously, was 1366.59. So it's just kind of leveling off around 1366.59. Okay, so what happened, and this is a really bad example to do, and that's why we're going to do the next example. What happened over the years is people realized FDIC, the everything with the FDR in the 1930s that happened with the banks crashing. They started putting rules on banks because what banks were doing is they were really confusing customers that were not educated. And people were losing a lot of money when they shouldn't have been. And so now they have a rule that when you walk into a bank, you can say, give me the APR on that loan, and they have to take if it's doing monthly, daily, minutely, it doesn't matter. They have to put it so that it means the same thing so you can compare bank accounts. Well, this one is a dumb example to do this on because why would you compare bank accounts to the same account? Like it doesn't make sense. But I'm going to teach you how to find APY and APR. They mean the same thing. APY stands for yield. So if you're, that's an I. If you are getting a savings account and you're trying to earn money, they call it APY. So you want your APY to be high because the higher, the more money you make. This stands for your rate. So this isn't a loan. And so if you're getting a car loan, you want the APR to be the smallest. Okay. So to find APY or APR, it is just your annual interest. So on this one, my answer would be 13% because annually it is 13% and I'm doing annual. Because of the laws that have put in, most banks now don't even do monthly, minutely. They just give you the APR to begin with. Okay, so how you do this is you want to make 1363.77. That's what you got. And you're going to still put in 1,200, but instead of doing it quarterly, you want to know how long it would take in 1 year. Okay, why I'm struggling today. You want to know the rate for 1 year. Okay, so wouldn't I divide by 1,200? So I'm going to take 1363.77. I'm going to divide by 1,200, and then I'm going to minus the 1. So my answer is 13.65%. So it's a little higher when you do it quarterly. Okay, so now to do monthly, I would do 1365.64, equals 1,200, 1 plus r to the 1. So you're going to take the amount you got, you're going to divide by the initial value, and then subtract 1. And I get 13.8%. So I don't really want to have to write this next one out. I'm just going to type in 1366.56. You divide by the initial value and subtract 1. I just typed that whole thing in my calculator and I got 13.88%. Okay, and then the last one, I'm going to type in 1366.59. You divide by the initial value and then subtract 1, which is 13.88, and it should level off. So these are my APYs. This is how you find it. This problem is the dumbest problem ever to do this with because it is the same bank account. So look at example 2. Okay, example 2 is a little bit different because now it says you're taking $150 and you're going to do this for the next 20 years, but this is annual. So we're just looking for 1 year because that'll answer the questions. Of all the options, which one would produce the most money? So it's going to ask you to find the APY of each of them. Well, this first one is already in yearly. So that means that the percentage is just my answer. I'm done. Okay? So let's take a look at this next one. Okay? So the first thing you do on this, I'm going to come down here, I'm going to do B, is you type in, okay, I want to know what my balance is. I'm putting $150,000 in the bank, 1 plus 0.0535 semi-annually divided by 2 to the second. Now, some kids first block were like, but Miss Williams, you're doing it for 20 years. It doesn't matter. This is still just annual interest rate. You ignore the 20 and you're just looking at 1 year. So I'm going to type that in my calculator, parentheses 1 plus 0.0535 divided by 2 to the second, and I get a really big answer, 158132.33. What is my formula? You divide by the initial and subtract 1. So I'm going to take that answer, divide by the initial, and subtract 1. And my answer, I'm going to round it 2 places, is 5.4. You always round, you move it 2 places and then round it 2 places because that's what banks do, 5.42%. So if you're getting a loan or if you're getting a savings account, you want high, so the blue one right now is the best. Okay, so now you're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to this one. We're going to come down here and do C. So it's quarterly. So I'm going to find my balance, $150,000. 1 plus 0.0525 quarterly is 4 to the 4th. So I'm going to type in 150,000, 1 plus 0.0525 divided by 4 to the 4th. I get an answer. When you get that answer, you're literally going to divide it by the initial and subtract 1. And my answer is 5.35%. Okay, that one's not better, right? I want the higher one. Okay, so now I'm going to do the last one. So I'm doing D. Okay, on D, it's compounded daily. So I'm going to do $150,000. 1 plus 0.052 divided by 365 because I'm doing it daily to the 365th. So 150,000, I think, yep, one too many. 1 plus 0.052 divided by 365 to the 365. I get an answer, and my answer's on my calculator. You divide by 150,000 and minus 1. And so my answer is 5.34%. Again, not better. So my answer is I would put this in the money market certificate paying 5.35% semi-annually. Okay, this is where you would use this in the real world. It's to compare different accounts. It doesn't make as much sense on example 1 because it's not different accounts, it's the same account. So number 1 was just more to teach you how to find APY and APR. Number 2 is actually where you would use it. All right, so that should be enough to get you done with activity 1 and activity 2. We are doing a worksheet for activity 1 and 2 tomorrow. If you need that worksheet, I'm not sure who's here and who isn't. So if you need that worksheet, please just email me. Thanks.